Hello, Hammy time here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to wash and dry sand. I use both sanitized children's play sand and terrarium sand for substrate and sand baths for my hamsters. The terrarium sand that I'm using is Zoo Med's Repti Desert White All Natural Terrarium Sand. I like this sand because it's a fine grained sand that doesn't have anything added to it. I prefer this to the children's play sand because it has a little less dust, but every time I go to buy it, it's sold out. So because I hate to throw out sand and because I have a hard time finding this exact sand in stores, I decided that I would make the effort to clean and reuse it. I looked on the back of the bag and I found the cleaning instructions. This is the method I used to wash both the terrarium sand and play sand. I started collecting the used sand and stored it in a Ziploc bag. This is about half of the 10-pound bag of Repti sand. I used a flour sifter to sift out the sand into a 5-gallon bucket. I then filled the bucket with water. I had to use my kitchen sink because it had been raining non-stop for 14 days straight. I definitely recommend doing this outside with a garden hose. If you have to do it in your kitchen, then I suggest you have a vacuum cleaner close by to clean up any spills. I had filled the bucket up with a couple gallons of water and stirred it up to loosen up any debris. I used a fishnet to collect the debris in the water. I dumped out the water and added more water and fished out more debris. I did this several times. I then filled up the bucket with water again and I carefully added 1 cap full of bleach. I let it sit for 3 minutes and then I stirred it up. I dumped out the water and then filled it back up again and stirred it up. I repeated this several times until I was satisfied that it was clean with no odor of any kind and no debris. I dumped out the water and used a flour sack towel and a strainer to strain and squeeze out as much water as I could. I lined a baking tray with aluminum foil and spread the sand out onto it. I put it in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. I took it out and placed it on my stovetop and turned on the fan to take away the steam, and I stirred it up to help cool it off. It was still wet, so I transferred it to an extra large aluminum tray so I could spread the sand thinner. I stuck it back in the oven for another 15 minutes. I did this a few times until it dried completely. I baked it for 15 minutes each time, letting it cool off in between. If it's hot and dry outside, you can set it out in the sun and let the sun dry it out. When I washed the play sand, I was able to dry it by placing the tray onto my driveway in the hot sun. It took several hours to dry and I had to keep stirring up the sand. Once it was dry and had cooled off completely, I put it into a container. I like to keep the terrarium sand and play sand in separate containers. So that's it. That's how I wash and dry sand. Thank you for watching.